Yeah.
Thanks for coming out on this cold evening. All the people that have a chimney are at home, and I'm glad that you're here with me. I'm going to tell you today about a project I'm doing called SEED, Social Entrepreneurship for Education and Development. As I mentioned, I am the president of a small NGO here based in Tarifa. But this project has partners in North Macedonia, in Finland, in Turkey, and in Spain. So it's kind of a cross-cultural study of social entrepreneurship. The EU would like to collect best practices in social entrepreneurship and bring them together to try to transfer this information to youth, especially bring it back to some youth here in Tarifa. So I'm going to take you on a tour. We're going to travel first to Finland. And we're going to a small town called Kajani, Finland in the north, right close to the Russian border. And my partners there are actually Russians. They're immigrants from Russia to Finland, and they work in cross-cultural cooperation between the EU and Russia. And social entrepreneurship in every country has a slightly different definition. And here in the south of Europe, we usually use this as like the solution for youth unemployment. Let young people have the tools to start their own businesses so they have employment. In Finland, their concept is completely different. They have employment for everybody. What they don't have are services in the north. In the northern communities, they have a lot of resource extraction work, but they don't have services there to attract skilled labor. So they use social entrepreneurship to try to create new amenities for people living in smaller towns. So my partners there have created a great tool. Anybody here play Lego when they were kids?
Yeah.
You know how creative it is to get this? Well, imagine how fun it is to have like 1 meter size pieces of Lego made of blue foam, and to use that for your prototype and your service design process. So they have a garage filled with these huge, amazing pieces of Lego. And then we use that to actually do a prototype or an innovation or a brainstorming project. And it seems like, okay, this is fun, but I was actually shocked at how creative you are when you can get past 2 dimensions. Usually when we do a brainstorming exercise, you sit down, maybe with a computer screen or a tablet or a piece of paper, and sure, you have the perspective of people, but you're working in the end in 2D. If you get into 3D and you can create your thing and walk around in it, it opens up a whole nother level of creativity and innovation. So we played with this, we had the opportunity to play with this in Finland, and I wanted to bring this back to Tarifa, and we did. Unfortunately, I don't have a garage filled with all of these big blue blocks, but I did have a huge box of Lego. So we did some local workshops here in Tarifa, but with Lego. And the particular topic we were working with here was design of public spaces for youth and in street sports. And so we did this in public. We did some workshops, we took a big box of Lego, an intercultural group to add the cultural perspective. This was a group of young people and not so young people from Germany, Morocco, and here in Spain, from all over. And we went to public spaces with our Lego, and we tried to build out what we wanted to see in the design of those public spaces. The interesting thing about doing it in public is, especially here in Spain and in Tarifa, in a small town, everybody walking by also contributed their ideas, or at least stopped to ask what we were doing. We're very interested. The kids, everybody was involved. And we created some amazing designs of public spaces here in Tarifa using this methodology that was developed in the project. So what's in it for you as remote workers? Like, what's the takeaway from this? Is any time that you have the opportunity to add another dimension to your project, trying to come up to, in your social entrepreneurship is like a coin that has 2 sides. It has your social benefit, but you have to have a sustainable business model if you're going to implement this social thing. Both of them need to have an innovative solution. And both of them, you can use a model like this. Add another dimension, add some more perspectives to try to come up with both things. How to improve or innovate your social benefit, but most of us struggle more on the other side of the coin. How are you going to innovate and come up with a really innovative and new business case so that you can implement the benefit that you want? And this was a tool that came from Finland, but that we have implemented right here in Tarifa. So next we're going to travel to North Macedonia. So after focusing really on this kind of exciting, innovative social social benefit and service design work in Finland, we went to North Macedonia to work on the other side of the coin, on the business case. And in North Macedonia, has anybody been to Skopje in the Balkans? 20 kilometers from Kosovo. So this is a part of the world that has had a lot of conflict, had a lot of transformation since the war. And the government there is wanting to enter into full partnership in the European Union. So they have a lot of motivation to also be innovative in their legislation, their banking and things to make it up to the level where they can integrate into the EU. So they have a national center for the support of social enterprise in North Macedonia, something we don't have in Spain. And I'm not sure about what we call the more developed European countries, if they have those services there. But in Skopje, they do. So we went there to try to find best practices from the Balkans about how they were being innovative in their legislation for social enterprise. But what we found there wasn't so much the structural element, but always in social entrepreneurship, you come back to people. And what we did is we met this woman, her name is Barbara, who is the director of this center. So she told us her story. And it's an interesting case about how social entrepreneurship starts. She was a Polish psychologist in the 1990s, a young woman who was treating her patients that were either coming from addiction centers, from prisons and correctional facilities, or orphanages. Really socially excluded individuals. And the idea of the Polish government was to give them a check, social assistance, and give them some psychological help. And they were going to integrate into society. And she quickly realized that this does not work at all. But because she was a crazy, passionate woman, her solution was to take 20 of these people, her 2 young daughters and her husband, and go live in an abandoned schoolhouse in the countryside of Poland. A totally crazy move. But they learned the skills to rebuild this schoolhouse, and while they did that, they were creating some work skills to then start to create some products in woodworking and things. She did this for about 30 years, and the center, even in its early days, became quite famous until some high-level politicians, the deputy minister of Poland, went to visit it, and he cried when he saw the change in these people after they had been given some values, some roots in a community, and some action where they could actually feel like they were making some progress in their lives. And her model became that legislative model for social entrepreneurship in Poland. All the social entrepreneurship structure at the government level was replicated and scaled up from her community house, that she called it. And now the government in the Balkans has hired her to implement the same model in North Macedonia. So legislation level of social entrepreneurship comes from having a crazy idea and having the passion to go for it. She's an amazing speaker. I interviewed her for a podcast, and she spoke for an hour and a half, and we were just with our mouths open to think, who would be so passionate about including other people in society that you would move into a schoolhouse with your small family and a bunch of her psychology patients. But luckily for her, she did. But the takeaways from what we learned from Barbara were really about values. What she realized these people needed more, even before practical skills, was a shift in mindset. To have some ideas about the values that we talked about last week. Do you remember when we were here last week talking about values? Things like responsibility, things like empathy for other people, and that they really needed some self-love so that they felt like they could participate in society. But Barbara, for all her passion about these things, her expertise is on the business case. Because you can imagine she has this crazy group of people and they're making some products, but you have to sell these products. These products take more time to create because she has some people that need a lot of training. And so she had to go out one by one to make the connections and convince people to buy her products from these people. Now they do things like sell uniforms for the staff at Volkswagen. And she has big contracts. And in this way, she has developed the procurement law that says how the tax structures and things of how you can contract social enterprises in Eastern Europe. So as crazy as she was to do this idea, where she really found her strength was in the business case. And if you can't do that, you'll never be able to implement your crazy idea. So after North Macedonia, we went to Turkey, a whole another area of the world with a completely different mindset. And also sort of our eastern door of Europe, and our neighbors that we should maybe be paying more attention to. Come on in. Come on in. So in Turkey, we were looking for some more examples of different ways that people were talking about social entrepreneurship. And there we found a really beautiful example of a women's weaving collective. Remember I said Barbara found that one of the things that people really needed to be active members of and participate in society were a sense of roots. And I find this interesting when we're talking about remote workers. Like what are our roots, and how do we, is there something there for us even though we're trying to be traveling all over around the world? And in Iznik, Turkey, we went to a small village outside of Iznik, a few hours from Istanbul. And there, the women didn't have a lot of opportunities, there's not a lot of work, and they didn't even really have a lot of social life outside of the house. They had a hard time connecting. And the population there were actually immigrants, originally from Bulgaria. So one woman had the idea and the strength to create a collective, and she brought all the older women out of their house and got them back into weaving, something had done in their other villages. And they were weaving a very specific patterns from their immigrant roots in Bulgaria that weren't well known in Turkey. And so they were creating a product that they could sell, they were getting some work skills, they were making some money, and they were getting out and creating a women's group together as sort of a social support that they didn't have when they were isolated each in their homes. But again, how do we make a business case for this product? And they discovered that these villages are dying, and this is not only in Turkey, this is happening in the middle of Spain and so many places that don't have the tourism boom, and they have a brain drain of people who don't want to live in these villages anymore. These same people, and that are maybe now in the Turkey case, living in Istanbul, have disposable income, but they're looking for a social benefit as well. They're looking for a connection to their roots, and they're looking for a connection to their village. So who is the customer for these things? Not the people in the village, where it would just be another cheap cloth. It's the people who have had to emigrate from these villages and now really want a piece of their history and their roots. And they're willing to pay a good price for something that's handmade from people from their village. And they found a market for this, not where they thought it would be, in their hometown. But they have to find the people that have also left the village and now want to connect. An innovative solution. They didn't know that they were going to be selling online when they were making something there, but now these women have become internet entrepreneurs, selling these things to people from all over Turkey who have immigrated. There's a beautiful example. We had such a really nice moment with them. They were teaching us how they weave, showing us their very specific patterns, and teaching us about social entrepreneurship. Another example in Turkey, this is the website, it's called Living Traditions. And another things not so specific to Turkey, but they have lived more than us in other countries, was the Syrian refugee crisis. They were the land door basically to Europe, and so many people walking across Turkey, and lots of them stayed there. Iznik is not without this problem as well, where they have a lot of Syrians there without work, without skills, without the language skills. But they have another issue. The other side of the social entrepreneurship coin, we usually talk about social inclusion projects, but then we have environmental projects as well. And in Iznik, they had two problems that they solved with one business. The other one was in Iznik, because of climate change, a lot of the olive trees that have always been the main crop now are not so healthy, or the changing economic conditions as well. They prefer to have fruit trees. So the local farmers were actually ripping out their 100-year-old olive trees and burning them just to get rid of them because of the space, or just leaving them on the ground to rot, to plant other crops. And a German man saw this, he saw the Syrian refugees and thought, I can put this together. So they go around and they collect these old olive trees that are going to be burnt, To bring them back, he teaches them woodworking skills as well, and they make wooden bowls, wooden handicrafts, other things out of this amazing wood, which is basically a free prime material for them. The Syrians get work skills, but more importantly probably they get work contracts, and now they can legalize their situation, help their families, and have a stable life in Turkey. And all because they had two problems. Somebody saw these problems and realized there were actually opportunities. I wanted to bring it tonight, but I'm actually moving, and it was stored away in a box. I have a beautiful wood olive board, handmade out of the roots of these trees that have a beautiful staining and things. They're making amazing products, again selling them online. But they were so in demand, and Iznik has a small tourist industry that they were able to open a retail store. And now this opened up opportunity for other social entrepreneurs, because so many people didn't have enough or the capability to, say, have an Etsy store or to do shipping of their product. But now that there's a retail space available where other people can bring their products, even if it's small, some of these women that don't have a lot of skills or other opportunities, if they're doing a handicraft at home, they have a place where they can sell it. And he takes care of the credit cards and all these things, so some people can sell their things in Izmir, Turkey. They're called Living Traditions. They have a really nice website if you want to order some of their things. And it's just an example of how a problem is an opportunity, depending on the other dimension or the other perspective that you want to give it. Yeah, and again in Turkey, it's funny, I keep coming back to roots. You're even using roots as this is our main material for these things. But you can find a lot of innovation when you go back to what you know with new perspective. Because we're not standing still in time either. Even if we come from somewhere, we all come from somewhere, we all knew something. Then we go along in our life and we gain new skills. And sometimes looking back on where you started with new eyes can be a great source of innovation when you're looking for a solution, either for a social issue or again for your business case. We all have skills and things that sometimes we forget that we have because we've known that so long. Looking backwards sometimes can also be a way to move forward. So after that, I wanted to bring all this home to Tarifa. I brought my partners from Finland, from Turkey, and North Macedonia here to Tarifa because I really wanted them to be inspired by what inspires me here, which is this cultural mix. Even look at who we are here tonight. This place attracts people from all over, and even what's local here. We're sitting here in Spain and we're looking across at another continent, 2 bodies of water, Gibraltar nearby. For me, this is a huge inspiration. And my partners luckily enjoyed it and felt it here as well. And I wanted them to see some different scales of social entrepreneurship that we have right here at home. For example, who knows Hauke? I know some of us know Hauke. He's a local character here in Tarifa. If you're visiting here for a few months, you will probably see him or notice him, or I hope you will visit him. He has a store called the Galleria del Mar, down in front of the port. If you walk in front of the port, you'll see it. He's a real character. He calls himself, or I like to call him, the Don Quixote of marine garbage. Okay, what does Hauke do? Usually you see him cleaning the beach, picking the garbage. But he is a very crafty social entrepreneur if you look at it from another perspective, because his prime material is also garbage. He combs the beaches, cleaning up, but he also collects all the metal. He's designed his own innovative process to give it an even rust coat, and he uses this to make a lot of framed art and things that the tourists love. And he has his store. A lot of the signs on the restaurants around town use his art. But so you say, great, okay, he's picking up garbage. This is one level of his social benefit. He's cleaning the environment. Level 2, he's recycling some other things. But every time, he only does in-person sales, because every interaction with somebody for him is an educational opportunity. Because he will tell you about where it came from. He'll tell you about the Almadraba, about what happens here in the strait, about how much boat traffic there is, about why there's so much garbage, where it comes from. He does a lot of activities. But because His prime material is actually free. He has an amazing markup on his products that he does very well. And so he doesn't work very much, because Hauke would rather be out cleaning the beach and picking garbage. His store opens when he wants in the summer. He does very well. He talks to a lot of people. He makes people fall in love with Tarifa, with his stories. He plays the whole character of the beachcomber pirate, and he's a super interesting guy. He also organizes a lot of events, beach cleanups, things like that. I don't think Hauke would even call himself a social entrepreneur, and I don't think that, you know, that's his intention. It's just who he is and what he does. But there's so many layers of social benefit in his thing. Even it's his interaction with people, to educate them and tell them what this beautiful resource is that we have in front of us and what we can do to take care of it and how we should be cleaning up after ourselves in this way. But he's not the only one. I also would recommend that you go visit Eva. And I don't know if anybody's been in her store, which is if you walk past the castle towards the church on your left-hand side. She is also a marine biologist who worked a lot on the tour boats here. Now, this is an industry that also is educational, but can be seen from 2 points of view as far as its effect on the environment. They're sometimes bothering the animals at the same time that they're saying that they're working in education and conservation. She wanted to do something different, so instead of working on the boats, she became a point of sale for the tickets, because she realized that she also had more opportunity to talk to people sometimes that way than she did on the boats. So she acts as a point of sale, so everybody who goes to see the tour has to talk to her first, so she has the opportunity to educate you. And then she sells products in there as well, all handcrafts based on recycled art or based on marine mammals and things. And again, she also opens up her space so that others can sell their work there. But again, all the profits that she makes there, she reinvests either in conservation efforts or research or biology through another association that she runs. She also hits all the local schools every year doing workshops with the kids on art, recycling, marine life, etc. She's very active. Another social benefit from her is she connects the local businesses and tries to, in this low time in Tarifa where there isn't a lot of work, she does activities to try to, even draws or prizes and things, to try to build up the off-season tourism offering that there is here. So people walk by her store and think it's a store, and it is a store. But there's so much more going on if you go and talk to her. And she has found a way to live, have a job, raise her, she has a daughter, but she's actually putting a big social aspect into this tourism office here. People come here to Tarifa to see this beautiful ocean, but sometimes they don't get past that into the other levels to think about what does it take to protect where we are and to enjoy it respectfully. And people like Eva and Hauke really do that. And then there's another guy I'd love for you to meet. There's a man here, he's 24 years old, named Jerome. And he's developed an app that I will encourage you all to download called the Palu Project. With his app, you can walk into Mercadona, you can scan any product, and it will tell you how it's contributing to your carbon footprint, how much, what kind of packaging it is used, where it is produced, and to let you make some choices about your consumption in the grocery store. His app, he has a database in Belgium and Portugal and Spain at around, he says around between 70 and 80% of products in the main grocery stores he has registered there that you can scan and get a footprint. There's some other parts of the application where you can measure your water use, your energy use, and your carbon footprint based on your activities. And now he's adding a social part where you can do challenges with your friends to how you're going to lower your consumption or share recipes even for the various products that you buy. A young guy right here in Tarifa that is doing something on a big scale. There's so many ways you can do social benefit, and I wanted to show you some examples where something like this, like a really professional international app, or the same guy picking garbage and selling things You know, who's having more social impact at the local level or the international level, or does it matter? Because everybody's doing something. We're all in it together, no? So these are sort of what officially you could call social entrepreneurship, no? But I think it's important that we kind of expand the definition beside what the law says is social entrepreneurship, or what your tax and your accountant would say is social entrepreneurship, and talk a little bit about how we add social value to everything that we do. Because lots of us have these dreams. There's this quote I love, you know, everybody wants to save the world, but nobody wants to help mom with the dishes. You know, it sounds so romantic, right? We're going to do these great things. We're going to start a big organization. We're going to save the children. But we have to pay the bills, too. But I think if we add a little social value even to everything that we do, we just feel better about our work and ourselves, and we're helping our community. And so I got a couple examples of other people who are creating social value right here in Tarifa, like the Cocofera. Is this not social value, what we have right here? They could just be selling hostel rooms, no? And office space. That's their business. That's what they do. But I think that they probably enjoy and feel good about going to work every day when they know that they're creating community. We're all here tonight and feel good about something that you can't put a dollar value on, but it's a social benefit, and I'm sure that it pays back to them on these untangible things. What about Cafe Tarifa? Again, hosting us here. We're drinking, some of us are drinking beer and wine, but we're not spending a lot of money. He could put on some music and draw in the beer drinking crowd, and that's his business, right? But he's made a decision to create an atmosphere here that adds a social element to Tarifa that's really missing. Sort of an intelligent, thoughtful, enjoyable, for a different type of client in Tarifa. For me, this is a huge social value. I approached Rafa because one of my other social projects is I have a small chess club. And there's kids and adults, and we have chess classes, and it's nice to come to a place like this and feel welcome, so that you can just pull out the chessboard and play a game. And again, you know, we don't drink so much beer or wine. It's not a big money maker for Rafa. But what if I told you that one of the kids that comes is 17 years old, dad's been in jail for 10 years, mom's an addict, he lives in a residence, and he's desperately not wanting to go down the path of his family. But if you don't have money, and you don't have a lot of good street life around you, where do you go? Where you can be away from this. And he comes to the chess club, and that's where he hangs out. And now he knows that he feels like he could come here if he didn't want to be in his street scene with kids his age. I told him, go to Cafe Tarifa. I'm sure that if you don't buy a coffee, but you take out the chessboard, they'll let you stay there. This could be a huge benefit for one person. Maybe it's not saving the world, but maybe it's saving one person. So it's about kindness, really. You know, like, just sprinkle that shit everywhere. It doesn't cost you any money sometimes. And I love this quote by Bukowski, if anybody else does it. You begin saving the world by saving one person at a time. And everything else is just grandiose, you know, romanticism of politics. And I think there's room for being romantic and for being passionate. We get lost sometimes in trying to do big things. And just doing one small thing can be really beneficial to somebody else, and you don't even notice. It didn't take you any time to be next to them. So anyways, I'd like to close with a poem for Veronica. It's a poem called Small Kindnesses that I love. And it says, I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by. Or how strangers still say bless you when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we're saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot, and we want the person to smile at us, and we want to smile back at them. And we want the waitress to call us honey or cariño when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. Because we have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire. Only these brief moments of exchange. But what if they are the true dwelling of the holy? These fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat. No, go ahead, you first. Or I like your hat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, any comments, any questions? Thanks for listening.
Straight up, stories is yours?
Okay, so connect with me, please. My association is called Straight Up. You can find me on Instagram or on email or whatever. I have a podcast series where I'm interviewing a lot of social entrepreneurs to have some of these examples. We were talking about this before I began, that lots of people want to save the world, or lots of people have good ideas, and we just get so lost in where to start, like how to start a project. And I think that it's about values and it's about mindset. And so just hearing examples of other people for me has been really inspiring, because there's so many different ways to go about it. Big ways and small ways. So if you have an idea or you have a project, I love these interviews and letting young people listen to them, what their ideas were, how did you start, what were your challenges, and how did you overcome them. It's really inspiring to listen to people's examples, and I'd love to listen to yours.
Thank you.